Welcome, my dear students of class 12 to this English class with me, your tutor Atsinyo Sekose. Today, we are going to take a look at your MCB section, textbook in fact, and we would be taking a look at writing business letter. So, earlier in our previous classes, we have discussed a little bit about writing letters with regard to this writing or drafting invitation and so on. So here, what we are going to discuss is very similar, but at the same time, we are also going to discuss some marked differences that you would find with business letters and invitation formal letters. So I would request you to turn to page 31 and you would find samples and some tips that is mentioned in your text here. So on page 31, we would first find out what is business letter and why do we write business letter? How do we write one? So those are some of the questions that we would be discussing today. Now, so on page 31, business letters, we write it on the basis of their purpose. Why you are writing, that is also answering that question. Letters may be classified as social or business. So letters can be classified as social or business, and what we are going to discuss is all about business letters. So here, very quickly, business letters are a kind of formal official letters and written to achieve a desirable response, whether for solving a problem. When you have a problem, you write the business letter to address to a company to come and solve it, something like that, and making a request, or you wanted to make a request to or make a transaction with, let's just say, a bookstore where you wanted to, or a publishing house where you wanted to ask for a copy of a book and so on. Then, or seeking information. Maybe you wanted to write or draft a letter to an office or a department trying to seek for certain specific information. So that is what you would find here. Those are some of the purposes of business letters. I'll also try to give you an example here. Supposing you wanted to arrange a seminar, an online seminar, what do you have to do? From the school perspective, you would have to address the school and make arrangements. If you wanted to, let's say, instead of online, supposing you wanted to conduct a cleanliness drive and you wanted to use let's say a community hall, you would have to address the officials or that colony people, authority. So that is what you would have here. So that is all the kinds of simple examples that you can find. And every day we will likely to find that we would have to transact business letters. So here, I'll read out, look at the given example of a business letter written by the manager of a catering company to a client. So for client, I need you to write down customers seeking the settlement of an overdue payment. So now, here is the scenario. The manager of a catering company, let's say, is drafting a business letter to a customer who had not yet paid the bill for their catering service. So that is the scenario here. And when you look at that sample there, you would find the format is also there, and we would be I would suggest that you take a look at it and read it up and then follow the next discussion. So the key points to note when writing a business letter, it is formal and for official purposes. And the next thing, the language should be clear and concise. Again, language clear and concise. In fact, whenever it comes to formal, when you see formal writing, the language is always clear and concise. Make sure it is also simple, to the point. Business letters, for one purpose, for a single purpose, you are drafting a letter. So make sure it is to the point That's very important here in business letter. You have to be specific. In other words, if you have to give certain data or if you have to give facts, those facts can be mentioned. So that will help you come to a specific point. Then avoid any kind of jargon. What do we mean when we say jargon? Make sure that you avoid elaborate language. So if you are able to stick to language clear and concise and simple, you would be able to avoid elaborate language. You just want to make your point clear in the most simplest form. So the next point we have here is active voice. And active voice here, what do we mean? I need you to refer back to page 31 to that sample. And here, in that conclusion section, you would find, I am requesting you to settle this account. So see, it becomes I am requesting, it becomes an active verb. At the same time, it maintained the present tense here in the sense that requesting you to settle this account. So if you are able to use the active verbs, it will automatically make your language very simple and clear and direct as well. And the next thing that we have to remember here is the tone of or the language again. So I would put it here. The next point, tone. In this case here, coming back to that sample, I'll read out the full text now. I am requesting you to settle this account at the earliest possible, otherwise I shall be forced to take legal steps to recover the amount due to my company. So the tone here is direct, it is direct and it is very business-like. So that is the tone that we have here. For formal business letters. Now, the next thing that we have to remember is, if you know the person you are writing to, use dear. If you know the person you are writing to, make sure you use dear and then title. In this case, we are referring to Mr., Mrs., Miss, and so on. Then, in case, the second point, in case you do not know the addressee personally, use dear sir, madam, and so on. Now, the next very important point in the ending phrase, if you know the person you are writing to, if you know the person you are writing to, it should be yours faithfully. And the next point, if you have a personal relationship with the addressee, use best wishes with warm regards and so on. So, personally, best wishes. This is personally, if in this case here, you know the person. Now, the last point, in case you do not know the addressee personally, use, in fact, here, when you do not know, yours faithfully, and the next point here is yours sincerely, when you know. So that's what we have there. So I hope this clarifies some of the confusion here. When you start drafting from the first part of the sender's address and so on, and recipient's name and so on, this would be also coming into effect. Now let's take a look at the format now. For that, you can refer to page 33. You have it a sample again. So in that format, what do we have? Everything, as you noticed, is starting from the left-hand side. So there is no confusion with the starting. And now we need to take a look at this section first. In the first part, you have to write your name, sender's name, because you are the sender. So sender's name there, we can say, let's just say for now, it is Nipuka or any other name. Then sender's organization. Supposing the person is working in, let's say, clean organization, something like that. Let's just say for now. So that is what you would have there. Then city, pin code, let's say the person resides in Longland and the pin code is 79, whatever the case may be there. So that is what you would have there in this section. Then comes the date. Make sure you leave a space here in between and then write down the date. Now coming to the date, it is very important that you mention the month in letters. So supposing it is 31st of January, so it should be put in that way in letters. Then 2020. I'm putting it a little bit up for space reason. I hope you would not mind. Then comes the recipient's name. Again here, after this, there is a space. Then recipient's name, to whom you are sending. So if organization is there, if company is there, you need to mention it. However, up here, it is optional. Then code, pin code. City, in fact, city, pin code. Next is we have salutation, and in this salutation, we have here these cases, that is, whether you are to use Mr. or Mrs., whether it is a sir or madam, whether it should be later on yours faithfully or best wishes or yours sincerely. So in the salutation, remember, if you know, then it becomes a dear such and such. If you do not know, it becomes Mr., Mrs., and so on, more polite and formal. The same case applies in the following section here. Now, the next point here is you have to come to the body section, that is in paragraph. So in paragraph, what is the purpose of drafting that letter? You need to cut to the chase. That means get to the point of the purpose of writing that letter. Avoid unnecessary jargon. That is also what we have learned. So make sure you avoid elaborate language, and just as we found in the sample there, it says, I would like to. So that's how it started. So you can avoid with due respect and honor and so on. Then add information. If you have any other additional information, you can add it in a separate paragraph. Supposing it is for a formal business letter, supposing you wanted to mention the bill's name or the check name, numbers and so on. So that is what you would find here in this additional information. Or maybe here, how to get back to you, contact. So then comes the conclusion. So in the conclusion, remember these again, yours faithfully. When do we use yours faithfully? We use it only when we do not know. But I want to point out here that this is also outdated now. People consider it as outdated nowadays. But some people in official office, again depending on the context, people still use it. So for this, I would request you to get in touch with your teachers as well. Now, so that's what we have here. But as prescribed or as suggested in our text, make sure that you do not use yours faithfully if you do not know. It's better to go with yours sincerely. So again, here I hope that does not confuse you. Only when you know we are supposed to use yours sincerely and so on, but that is the case with this. Now, so in your conclusion, you have that and ending phrase. Then you have sender's name, your name, then designation and company, and enclosure. If you have any additional documents to enclose there, you enclose it. And then make sure if it is more than one, you can also copy to more than one person. You can also put it in this way. You can enclosure, you can put, if it is more than one document, you can also label it in this way so that confusion is not created. So that is what we find here. For space reason, I have given this end phrase up here. Make sure that everything is starting from the left hand side till the end. So I hope you would be able to differentiate that. As given in your text here, these are found within a box, but drawing a box is not necessary. It is only to draw your attention to that format. So when you actually draft one, no need to draw a box. So very quickly, why do we write business letters? We write it in order to inform or to solve a problem, in fact, to request and so on. So those are some of the reasons we draft business letters. And when we draft a business letters, the format is the same case with invitation. Make sure the language is simple and concise. Make sure that that whatever specific information that you have needs to be given. So that is what we have here in format under business letters. And I hope you would take some time to draft one. You have some questions there on page 33. We have a few questions there. So following the format, try to draft one. Make sure you follow these instructions, and the main key points or the main takeaway here is if you are lost for words, you can also have a look at the sample again and try to pick up the sentences in that manner. But of course, depending on the kind of questions that you are getting, you would have to mention or in fact change the informations, the facts, and so on. So I hope you would take some time to draft one and have fun doing that. And on that note, we would be winding up today's class. Thank you all very much for joining me.